Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank. He's Gary Groob, and our very special guest of the Whitby Steelhawks and Brooklyn Merchants is head coach Ryan Degerden. Ryan, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you guys for having me today.
Always a pleasure to talk lacrosse, and I'm sure Gary warned you. The first thing we're going to ask you is, how'd you pick up a stick?
So I picked up a stick when I was fairly young. I was born in the United States. I was born in Long Island, New York. That's where my mom was from there. My dad was playing hockey down there. And then around spring of 92, we decided to make the trek up. And one of my dad's good buddies at the time, Craig McGraw, he had his son, who's my age as well, Josh McGraw, said, hey, we're playing this game lacrosse. And 4 years old, got out there. I got some good photos of being out there, but got the big old Brian gloves on, right? As a 4-year-old, you're holding this little stick, and that's what we started with, Whitby Warriors, and that's where I played all my minor lacrosse. So yeah.
Well, tell me about the transition. We're not. It's not unusual. Anytime we talk to somebody about lacrosse, once you're in, you're in. It's everybody. Yeah. Most people become lifers. Yeah. Different people handle it a different way. You went to coaching. Tell us about your lifer side of being a lacrosse guy.
So yeah, like I said, I played lacrosse since I was 4 years old, and I played Whitby minor lacrosse all the way up. Moved down to the States when I was in grade 10. Played a season of there. Moved back down here, and then played. As a 16-year-old rookie, made the Gales, and then played 5 years there, up and down with the junior A. Then from there, I actually broke my leg in my last year junior A, tibia fibula. My first game back I played down in Onondaga too as well. Came back, snapped my leg, first game back, so I was out for my whole 5th year. So the following year, I didn't really know what I was going to get into. I went out. Leg was still a little bit wonky. Tried out for senior A. Ajax Pickering was one of the last cuts there. Then I went over, found out about the Brooklyn Merchants, and then became kind of a mainstay there. And so that was back in 2010. Sorry, I'm trying to look a couple of years back here now, right? So. And got on there with Steve McCarthy, right? And him being coach, love Steve. Shout out to Steve there. We still have a great relationship to this day. And then from there, up and down with Brooklyn Redmond a couple years there as we're going in there. And then eventually came back, and then as some you guys might know, but 15, 16, I became the captain in 14, and I was the captain until about 2020, until COVID hit. Right. And then we had the special years in 15, 16, 2015. We kind of came out of nowhere. We beat St. Kitts in the second round, who were the host that year of President's Cup. And then we ended up losing 3 games straight to Six Nations. And then the following years, when we kind of had our really special run, 2016, we came through, swept OSL, and then went out east, finished 3rd in Canada, and then just continued to play. And then after COVID hit, I was 30, turning 31. 2 years off, put some weight on, and was like, you know what? I'm not getting back to my playing shape. So before that, in 2019 and 20, I had been talking to Brad MacArthur had been bringing up to me, and because he had been coaching, at that time he had taken on the role of being like GM coach of both the Redmond and the Merchants at the time with Crosby, right? And he had pulled me aside, and he's like, I see a future for you in coaching, right? And I said, okay, like. I hadn't really thought about it at that point, right? And then 2 years went by, and it was 2022, and 2023, I think it was. Yeah, 2023. And I got the call, and Clancy was the head coach of the Brooklyn Merchants, and they needed an assistant coach to come out. So Brad called me up. I thought about it. I had a 2-year-old at home at that time there, and I know because the weird thing with me is if I'm committed, I'm all in there, right? So if I'm making an obligation, I'm not going to be half in, half out, blah, blah, blah. So I sat down with the wife and we talked, and she's like, you know what, go for it. You know, you haven't had it for a couple of years. And so I went into it, not really, I knew a couple of guys like Peroni, Lucas Coote, those kind of guys there. And then that summer I just said, yeah, let's go for it. And boy, did we ever go for it, because from there, the defensive coach for Brooklyn at the time, Derek Suddens, was supposed to be the defensive coach.
Right.
And he had a family emergency at some point. So I ended up taking on both the defensive coordinator positions for both Merchants and BLC at the same time that summer. So let me tell you, when the wife it went from like, a couple of days to 4 to 5 nights a week for the whole summer, because I was doing both, right? And I just fell absolutely in love with coaching. And from there, Clancy got the well-deserved, got the bump up to BLC to be the offensive coach there, and then I was offered the Merchants coach.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2024, every year we've been there, we've taken another step, right? Another step. And and then I got asked, and then I think it was 2024, I was asked to be the coach, assistant coach with Joel on Steelhawks.
Mm-hmm.
And then Joel had to step away the following year down for some personal reasons and family reasons as well. And then I was asked to take over the head coaching position of the Steelhawks. And it's been fun. So I coach 9 out of 12 months of the year right now, right? When it starts, right? So from I end off, if Merchants do their thing, they go to the end of August. I get September, October off. Middle of November, I'm back in gaming with Steelhawks, and then we go on a run from there, right? So it's been nothing. I know I'm talking a lot here, rambling on here, but I love being a coach. I really do. And I enjoy it, and I enjoy the intricacies of being a coach and dealing with players and personalities and how to deal with them, right? In this day and age, especially, right? You can't be a hard ass all the time. There's ways that you got to bring out the best in people sometimes, right? So it's a fine line, and I like to think, and it's a challenge for myself to do that. So yeah.
Halfway through that conversation with what you've done, I would have needed a nap.
Yeah.
You're a busy guy.
It was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, but you know what? It ended up being great, right, Frank? So it was,
good for you.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing, and we'll drill down further. Gary will drill down further there, but the other thing is where you are. Lacrosse hotbed. Peterborough's right there.
Yeah.
Finally, the National Lacrosse League has deemed your community a place to have a team. So I can understand the deep-rooted love because of you're in the middle of this cauldron of lacrosse, right? I'll let Gary take over from here. You want to comment on that? You can, and then we'll let Gary take over.
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, growing up and just to watch how the communities across Durham have kind of like, because when I was growing up, it was Whippy. That was it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was, and then Whippy drew from everyone around, right? And then it was Peterborough up here, right? So then obviously, growing up, Whippy and Peterborough, the minor lacrosse, it was just those were great games, right? But now you've got Oshawa minor, you've got Clarington, you've got Whippy, you've got Ajax Pickering, you've got, right? And all these hotbeds, you just see, and it's a great thing to see and watch how this game has grown. And then to bring in on top of the storied franchises of the Gales, the Warriors, the Peterborough Lakers, the Brooklyn Lacrosse Club, the Brooklyn Merchants, all that stuff right inside here. And then you bring in the NLL team, like you were saying, Frank, and you've been to the games, you've watched the games. There is a fire here for that, and I really hope that the Oshawa that people embrace them for years to come here, because it's great going to the game. The lacrosse community is so small, right? And you walk around and you get 10 feet, you see somebody else, you want to talk to them. You get to walk another 10 feet, you see somebody else, right? It's almost like you can't watch the game because you're talking to everyone, you're catching up, right? Over the years, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I found that too in the Firewolves games. I can't go 4 feet without having to stop and say hi to somebody.
Exactly.
I've never really experienced that in another arena to that extent. It's wild being in the Clarington, Oshawa area and just seeing all that. And everybody is so relieved to have it. And everybody can use that as a center focal point.
Exactly. And it's great to see. It's really awesome to watch that. And you can see what a great place to pick was just, and what a great venue to be right in the middle of there. Right. And just how much the area around Oshawa and Durham right there is exploding in population too. Right. Like I said, I really hope the Firewolves can get on the right track. They're not on the wrong track at all, right? They're having some tough things to figure out, right? But they've got the young skill there, and I think it's only going to get way better there as well. And they're going to be a powerhouse for years to come, I think, right? So
plus downtown Oshawa, they've already started revitalizing it. Now they have that excuse to really revitalize,
really bring that city
into the forefront.
Absolutely.
Now I want to dig a little bit deeper back into your playing days, and I want to talk about back to the early days and what was it like to play for such an organization as Whitby as a kid?
It was special. Growing up, and there was also an expectation every year when you were playing there, right? Because of just you watch every year there was you got your team, your A team, your B teams, right? All that stuff. So I was on the most of the time I was playing with my head coach at the time. Most of the years was Ed Dirks, right? So played with Adam Dirks and then Johnny Hughes, Mitch McMichael, a bunch of guys like that. We had a great team. Like it was. But it was just, you showed up and it's hard to compare to now. Like I didn't get, with my coaching career, I went straight to senior lacrosse, right? Like I skipped the whole minor thing right now, right? So, and I hear my friends that are coaching with minor and you hear the stories, and obviously coaching has changed over the years, just like everything evolves over time, right? But, growing up, there was an expectation, you weren't playing well at 10 years old, 9 years old. You don't play, like you weren't playing in the provincial game, right? Like there was an expectation. But what I think that did was, to a lot of our guys growing up and people that were older than me and around my age, was that put a sense of pride into how you played and how, when you showed up to the rink, and just like how I coach now, guys, it doesn't matter who we're playing. You're coming here. It's business for 2.5 hours, 3 hours when you get to that rink. It doesn't matter who you play. It's what's in this room right now. You show up and you try to be a better lacrosse player than you were before you got there. Right. And that's what kind of was instilled with us was practices. You go there, you're getting better every time. Game times, you show up in a professional manner, and just growing up in that, it kind of just, it builds your character and who you are. Right. So, I look back on it. We had a lot of success. I think it was 5 or 6 provincial championships, right? Multiple field championships growing up. Right. And that kind of stuff. So, it paid off in the long run there, right? But growing up, and I look back on that, I think it kind of shaped on the player that I was, and what I demanded of, when I was playing and I was captain, what I demanded of my players in my room and on the floor, the effort wise, and being attentive, being prompt, and all that stuff. And now to my coaching career, how I coach as well, and what I demand of my players.
Right. Now, when we talk to the guys from Peterborough, Orangeville, some of the guys out west, and they talk about the key influences and a lot of the veterans coming back. Is it the same thing over in Whitby when you were coming in there? Your key mentors or influencers?
Yeah, absolutely. You live off the names there, right? Like that are there before you. Growing up, I guess a couple of ones before us, you had your Zach Greers, the big names up there, right? The big name coming out of our age group was Mitch McMichael, right? Coming out, he was a great player. I'm still friends with Ryan McMichael, and then my parents were great friends with McMichael's dad and wife, and it was good. But yeah, you learn on that because there's a history there. Just like when you walk into BLC and you see in the change rooms, right? You see the mentors, you see the people that have paved the path before you, right? And it's a big thing, and it drives you to want to be great, to want to be the best player that you can be, right?
Right, definitely. Let's talk about some of the teammates coming up and the guys who really took you under their wing as you were coming up to bring you into the right direction.
So that'll take me right to probably, I'll go right to the Gales area, because with minor lacrosse, you're always with the same age groups, right? So, but with Gales, right away, AJ Wards, the Shane Sargents, JJ, I forget his last name right now, but those kind of guys, Evan Robichaud, Craig McDonald, those are kind of like the veteran guys that got brought in. I was one of, I think it was me, Adam Dirks, Mitch McMichael were the 3 rookies that made the Gales our first year. Right. And, but being taken in and then on that trip now, especially because when I started playing with the Gales, we played, my rookie year was 2007. So the Gales were coming off of 2006, the Founders Championship, I think which is actually their last Founders Championship, right? Right. So a lot of expectations were there. Crosby was the head coach, Jonas Dirks, head coach, and friends to this day still too, right? But like, yeah, coming in, especially to an organization like the Gales, such a storied franchise, right? Now they're celebrating their 80th year this year, right? With Doug Louie being at the helm there for so many years, right? But like that organization, and that was just like, that came from going from Whitby minor lacrosse, where there's an expectation, where the Gales just took it to a whole nother level, where it was almost like a professionally run organization in there. It's so well run in there.
Yeah.
And the players in there, they take you under their wing and they teach you how to do, as you know, the saying, FHPT, family honor, pride, tradition, right? And that is a mainstay there, where that teaches you how to be a player. And I feel like the players that are lucky enough to play in the Gales organization, then I get them in senior lacrosse, and you can see some differences from other players from other organizations and how they conduct themselves. Not that it's their own fault; it's because they weren't part of the environment of, like, say, an organization like the Gales, right?
Yeah.
So those kind of guys, just they took me under the wing and they taught me what it was like to be like, and you caught on. And then obviously the demands and expectations and standards that Jonas Dirks and Jason Crosby lay out in front of you there. And I think we had Brad MacArthur there, Paul Stewart coming in before too as well. Those guys, I mean, as you guys know them, they're high expectations, high standard guys, right? And if you don't meet them, they'll let you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The aha moment. I love getting into this. When did it click for you, saying, this is where I want to be, this is my life, this is where it's going to be?
That was as a player. As a player, my aha moment was, okay, I'm pretty good at this lacrosse thing. And it was around grade 10 where I came back from the States. I had played down there, and I had led the varsity team to the state semifinals down there on Long Island. And as a sophomore down there, I was a leading scorer and everything like that. And I came back up here because it just didn't work out. We're living situation down there with the family and stuff like that. And came back up, and I went to go, and my dad wanted me to go try out for hockey. And I was just like, you know what? I want to focus. And I look back on it, maybe I should have kept playing hockey, but at the same time, my aha moment was like, okay, I'm pretty good at this lacrosse thing, and I want to go with this as much as I can there, right?
Right.
And that was kind of my aha moment for when I was playing, right? It was about grade 9, grade 10, where I kind of started seeing myself especially in the minor lacrosse there, separating myself especially in the A group there. That was my aha moment. My aha moment for, I would say, coaching was what was it? It was the playoffs of 2023. And we were playing against Six Nations there. And it just kind of clicked for me. It was that whole summer was just, like I said, it was crazy with me coaching both BLC and Merch. And it was kind of just sitting there like, okay, this is where I want to be. I was sitting in the room one time, and I was sitting in the coaching chair, and we had just had a big win against Six Nations there to push it to game 4, I think it was. And I sat back in my chair, and I was like, this is where I want to be. Like, this is where I want to be. I want to be coaching, and I want to see how far I can go with this, right? In terms of coaching, because I'm very into the intricacies, systems, and this and that, and just dealing with players. I love being in the locker room. You know what I mean? Right. So those are my 2 aha moments there at those points in time in my life where I was like, you know what? I want to see where this coaching thing can go, and not to benefit myself, but to challenge myself to see how far I can take this and see it. And so far, I've gotten a pretty good reception from my players in terms of how I coach and the style of how they like me and how I coach.
Well, the energy that you just even on the show, the energy that you exude is easy because when you fake it, people know it.
Yeah,
and have that realness. And, being in the trenches with it just rubs off on your teams. And it's no wonder that you're known as a player's coach.
Yeah.
To be there for them, not just for on the floor, but to be there for them. And it's obvious watching them and listening to them about you that's exactly the kind of man you are.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Gary. Honestly, that's probably one of the best compliments I would like to hear is about that, is that I'm here as a coach but as a person too as well. Like, I mean, it's crazy that I'm turning 38 years old this year, right? And it feels like yesterday I was playing lacrosse, but that was almost 8 years ago now, right? So I try to coach in the way of like the expectations of what I put on the floor are expectations for my young players in life and the work that you have to put in life, right? and show up every day and put your boots to the ground and show up, because if you don't, nobody else is going to do it for you.
Right. Now, I had Ryan McMichael on my Sunday show this past weekend.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
And we talked about an interesting thing of it being, sports gives you life lessons.
Yes.
But it's also the people who are in charge, who are the ones to help guide you through those life lessons. You had a number of mentors, as you brought up, bringing you through all the hills and valleys.
Yes.
And you become that guy. And I'm curious, is there any one person that was your mentor, or was it just a mishmash of different ideas from the area, from the?
So I'll tell you two names that right off the bat, that to this day still shape me in who I am. Right. And I will go to them because they're there. Is Jason Crosby and Brad MacArthur. Hey, Mac, how we doing, buddy? But Jason Crosby and Brad MacArthur, 100%. Crosby through my years at the Gales, and then also coaching me through merch, right? And BLC there when he got up there, and I was called up a few times. Brad MacArthur when he took over the merch there and took me under his wing and guided me, right? And guys I still talk to this day. I mean, Crosby was in my. It was funny. Crosby was in the coaching room in President's Cup during one of our games after Ladner. We were holding on to a lead, and he came down. He sits in my coaching chair, right? We're having a beer, and he goes, "Okay, this is what you're going to do next time. 2 minutes left, right? Boom, 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 boom. Here, right?" And it's something that was a great one. Was just, hey, you're on your offensive ball side. Keep three of your nearest on your ball side, your bench side. 3 guys, so that when you change, you got 3 guys come to your bench. You get defensive guys on your floor, right? Don't have 3 guys on the off ball side, right?
Right.
And that just a little thing like that stuck with me, right? Because now I do that on a regular basis when I coach. Now is we're holding on to a lead down the stretch. I want 3 righties out the board here or 3 lefties down here so they can come right to the bench. Something like that, right? And Brad's always checking in on me, always messaging me. So I would say those 2 for sure.
Right.
Are my 2 biggest ones that have molded me the most in terms of who I am and how I like to coach and what I want to represent as a coach.
Right. Now let's talk about moving from junior into the senior BLC and the difference in speed, the difference in mindset. What were the differences for you that were the adjustments that were needed?
Well, we talked like playing wise, right? You're talking about there, yeah. So I mean, junior, just coming straight from the Gales, and especially not playing from my 5th year there, right? So coming in, trying to play, then I'm going out and playing senior A, and I'm playing against, I'm going out there, and there's probably at that time on that senior A team, I think there was probably 10 to 12 NLL guys that were going out playing on that senior A team. And you know what it is it's how you, and everyone talks about this, the skill level at for the most part, ALL to NLL, right?
Yeah.
The skill level is there. A lot of guys have the skill level, right? It's the way you think the game and how you think the game, right? And how fast you can process the game at that speed there, right? Are you thinking a couple of steps ahead? Because the stick skills are there, the shooting skills are there, right? But for me, is when you're going up there, especially when I was playing and I would go up there and I would get called up to BLC and I'd go out there and I'd play against, and I'd be out there playing against Peterborough. And I'm out there covering, the Sean Evans, the Scott Evans, the Vitarellis and all that stuff, right? And how they think the game. And I use that, you turn your head for a second on just to right? They're going right behind you and they're trying to get open. Just little things on how they use the game and how they use their body and stick. And especially just in close moments where, you think you've got a guy covered, but then they feed the ball right into their stick and he's right on you and boom, 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 right? It's like that. So the way, the skill, obviously, the jump from junior to senior.
Yeah.
But the way they think the game, right? And then I take that from my playing days about, and then I try to incorporate that into my coaching and how to coach, right? Especially on the offensive side of the ball, we're always moving our feet, right? Always engaging your guy off ball. Don't just be going over to set a pick on a guy, right? Engage your guy first, make it happen. So I try to use my playing days from the jump from junior to senior into my coaching coaching style as well, because that's what it takes to get to the level. A lot of the guys that I coach are right there on the cusp of making that jump to the NLL potentially, right? And it's just about thinking the game a little bit faster than what it is, right?
Right. Now, that brings me to the next thing of going from captain to coach.
Yeah.
You had the same guys. Was it a little strange for them and for you when you first moved in?
It was actually, because it was such a fine line, because you have to draw the line in the sand, right? You're like, I'm known as a player's coach, but at the same time, you've got to be not the disciplinary, but you're there to set a standard, right? Yeah. And you don't want to cross that line and blur that line between player, coach, for friendship. Outside the rink, have a beer, whatever, like that. But on the floor, in the room, you've got to have that expectation of there's a standard there. The player's room is the player's room, right? The coach's room is the coach's room. And that was fun. That was weird at first, because I'd be talking to Lucas Coote, who I played with for 10 years, and now I'm coaching him, right? Now I'm the head coach, same with Peroni. And there was at a certain time there before he got traded with like Josh Gurry, right? Where, Justin Bragg and stuff like that, where they would come up to me and they would talk, right? But then, we're both looking at each other like, I can't really, talk to you the same way, right? As a coach. But it's something that I've had to fine tune over the last 3 years of being a head coach, is finding my niche and how to speak to players, and not being an asshole, part of my language here, but also being, a leader in the sense of, I'm setting, because I like to say accountability starts at the top there, right? And how I conduct myself goes right through to the bottom there, right? It goes from the coaching staff and management right through the players, right? If the coaching staff and management aren't accountable, if they're not setting high expectations, how the hell do you think your players are going to react to you? And how do you think they're going to answer to that? When you demand something of them, they're like, well, you don't do that, right? So that's where I'm at, where it is like that fine line of being a player's coach and then being a coach as well too, right? It was fun. It was fun. It's good, right? So yeah.
Yeah, accountability and standards, those are really key. And really key. You've set the line very, very strongly on both of those. And I think that's a huge point of why it works so well. Yeah. I want to get into the Ontario Series thing, and I want to get into specifically last year and what was so magical about the season. Because the year before, you've always been on the cusp, and now everything clicked. And especially as the year went along, and I remember talking with Prouder about it, is that he's brought the culture back into the Brooklyn organization, that we play for the front of the jersey, not for the back. You play for the Brooklyn logos, not for the name on the back of the jersey.
And that's the way, 2 years ago, when Brad finally, I think it was 2 years ago, right around this time, Brad MacArthur took his full-time job down in Florida there to be I think the athletic director of the lacrosse, kind of general manager for his college program down there.
Right.
And then BLC was looking for a replacement. And me being very good friends with Prout and coaching with Prout the season before, because Prout the season before was the offensive coach. Crosby was the head coach, and I was the defensive coach, right? But I've known Prout for years before that. We're very good friends. And I just know the type of standard that he brings. And I had to, egg him on a little bit, get in there and try to get him to get that, because I wanted that connection between BLC and the Merchants to be that one organization where BLC is drafting in the Major Series Lacrosse draft every year. Those young players, they come down to us. We develop, or the players that don't make the roster at the time, they come down to us. We develop them. We become what we're looking to be, is a perennial powerhouse, in the sense of we're always refreshing. We're always getting new guys coming in. They're learning how to win the Merchant, or the Brooklyn way. I should say, not the Merchant way, but the Brooklyn way. Yeah. And what we are. But now we're connected. We're always talking. I'm always talking to Joel. I'm always talking to Brad, to Prout, right? To Brad Reed. We're always seeing each other, because we come out of the same room, the same coaching room, the same dressing room.
Yeah.
In that sense, it has brought, I guess you could say, almost a resurgence back to Brooklyn in itself, in the senior scene, right? Where the BLC has become a top 3 program in the senior A, and now the Merchants, we're back into being one of the top 2 teams in the league. Us and Six Nations, right? Absolutely. Are going back and forth, and that's where we want to be. Is that, and so that when players get drafted to BLC, and they come down to Merchants, they know they're going to be a part of a winning culture, and what the expectation is of being a Brooklyn player, now in that organization, and having that communication between me, Prout, and Joel on a constant basis, and having the same goals in mind, that the team goals above all else is what is more important. Individual success comes with your team success, right? But you don't put that above your team success, because that's how cracks in the foundation can happen when somebody's unhappy about not getting enough playing time, or they're upset with sitting. Hey, listen, everyone has this. My least favorite thing is sitting down at especially when it comes down to playoffs and President's Cup, is who are my 5 players that are going to sit out this game? I despise that. I hate it, but I have to know, everyone has been a part of this organization from the very beginning of the year. Everyone has contributed to this, practices, showing up game times, pushing each other to be better. And they have to buy into the fact that this is a one for all, right? Kind of thing. And we're here together, and nobody else is above the team. And that's kind of what we're building here in Brooklyn right now. And it's a really good thing to see.
Well, what I noticed, especially as going into the playoffs this year, was that everybody had that same common goal, and you didn't let little things get to you. In times of past, they could get under the skin, and you take dumb penalties and whatever. This time around, every time that Six Nations tried to poke the bear, you guys just kind of smiled at them, let them take the penalty, and then make them pay.
Pay. Yeah, exactly, right. And that's the thing about being a championship team, is that you can't. There's a fine line between being emotional but playing with emotions. Do you understand what I'm saying there? Exactly. Because if you play emotional, you take stupid penalties. You play with emotion, that's where you get your drive, your passion from, right? You play with it. But in times of need, you've got to be able to sit there and take one for the team and not be, I got stripped there. Now I'm chasing the ball. Am I going to take that stupid one-handed slash penalty, chasing him down, and now I'm going to the penalty box? Or I got dirtied in front of the net. I get punched in the face. Am I going to retaliate and take that penalty? Those are the fine lines where it's hey, listen, you take one for the team. Listen, defend yourself. If it gets dirty, defend yourself. That's fine. Both of you go to the box. But don't be emotional. Take a stupid, cheap penalty, put us down, and then now we've got to go out there and defend it, right? So my thing with when I'm coaching is, don't be emotional, but play with emotions in sense of let that drive you, but don't be an emotional player and do this, right? You've got to be the most even keel going right through, right? Whoever can be the most even keel, because it's a roller coaster ride of a game. It's ups and downs, but whoever's the most even keel is usually going to win the game at the end of the day.
Right. Let's talk a bit about the President's Cup, because being at home, it was something really special, and the team really, really gelled together for the majority of the tournament. It happened a little bit weird in the last game. Snake Island had a great game plan, and they executed to a T, probably 98% from what they had planned and the way they did it, and keeping everybody to the outside and all that. And again, what you're saying is, getting emotional, and things kind of went a little bit off rail near the end of the game. But the entire tournament itself, watching that team grow from the first game, from the playoffs to the first game to where it was to the finals, and watching everybody in for everybody. Yeah, that was uplifting. Just watching
that was absolutely. And as a coach, you sit back and and you see what you've been building towards for the last couple of years, and it coming to fruition, right? And players that have been built, that have been with this organization since before COVID, and then a lot of the players the Fifers, they're the heart and soul of that team, man. They show up day in, day out, and they sweat, blood, and tears, man. Though I can't say enough good thing about the Fifers, man. They are in that room, the Peronis, the Braggs, they're just those are the kind of guys you want on your team, because they're there to play lacrosse because they love the game. Yeah. And then watching the group come together and the way they became a family, because it's majority of the time, I would say 75% of the group from 2023 was here in 2025 last year for President's Cup. Yeah. And then we added some pieces in and around there, like the Mariniers, and the guys that we added were incredible. And they were vouched for from the Will McLeod with him getting drafted. He vouched for Saris and Marinier, and they came in, and they're just guys that just love the game. And so you saw, even though we were adding pieces along, we were adding good pieces to the locker room. They were good people. Right. And they came in and they bought right into what we were building. and seeing that and the expectations that I have and that Mark DeBrone has and that Gavin has in that room, the expectations and the standards and the accountability that we have, it goes throughout, right? Like there's it's constructive on the bench. You come off, you say, hey, what'd you see out there, right? So building towards that, it was such a special thing to watch. And then getting into that last game, like you said, 12 at what was it? 8 minutes left or 10 minutes left. I mean, the game was still 0-0 at that point. And then 10 minutes later, it's 6-1 at the end of the first period, right? It was almost like one of those games where it was like being a prize fighter and we got punched in the face. It dazed us, and we were trying to get back into the game in that first period, and we just couldn't find a way to get our foot get stable. And then we ended up, I think we ended up outscoring them. I think it was 5-4 down the stretch or something like that, the last two periods. But that first period, I mean, again, kudos to Snake Island. They played an incredible game. They had a great game plan. We were trying to game plan on the fly, try to get something, and they answered. They had a very veteran team that had been very close several years in a row, and they just had it in them, right? And not that our guys didn't. They did. They wanted it more than anything. Mm-hmm. But that veteran savvy, that experience of being in that moment, you could see that it paid off for them more than it did for us. But like I told my guys at the end of the year, I said, hey, remember this, because this is what this feeling feels like, right? And we're going to be able to use this down the road coming into this year and saying, hey, now we know what we got to do. So,
you win or you learn.
Yes.
That's simple. There's no other way about it. There's lessons to be learned in all of that. Hell, you even had me singing the gold medal game anthem, right?
Yes. By the way, fantastic voice on you, Gary. Unbelievable. I was not expecting that, my man. So good kudos to you.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Let's pivot a little bit to the ALL.
Yes.
And first of all, I love being the media guy there because I love watching year after year after year all the guys who were hopeful, all the guys who were coming down, and the mishmash of everybody in there. Let's talk about the importance of that league, about getting guys to become pros and staying pros.
Yeah, that's a big thing about that league, and that is you've got, and it's a great league in that sense where it has such much more potential to grow into being a more prominent league as well too, right? And we're getting into that steps with Paul St. John and taking those steps to becoming a better league here, but having the guys come up and down to different teams and different players coming down to different teams. The young players that are coming up, because you could be 18 years old and playing on that league. So these young players that are maybe still in junior are now playing with some players that have played 20, 30, 40 games in the pros, right?
Yeah.
And you get to see how they work in the locker room, how they work on the bench, how they work on the floor, and it teaches these young kids this is what it takes to get to that next level, right? And you try to, and as a coach, you try to incorporate those into your whole game plan as a coach to utilize those guys that you guys get down. Like, when we get Jordan Storos back, that's unbelievable having him back there. He's such a good player and just such a vocal guy on the bench there too. Our Rowan Kelly, we had Luke Keenan coming. Luke Keenan, we were hopefully he was going to come back, but those kind of type of players coming back, and then it's a really good for the league and for our team to see the young players that are coming up looking to get drafted. Like our own or Pana. I mean, incredible player. He's going to be going pro. He's going to be going pro, right? He's going into his last year junior, but he gets to see how it operates, right, and all that stuff. And I think it's a very important part of the game. And I'm glad that this league started because you're able to mesh pro with amateur, and you get to see what it takes to be a pro.
Right. Now let's look into you jumping into the Whitby team, and they had just won the championship. You take over and you continue, and that's a huge thing. You continue with what is already there and that winning atmosphere.
Yes, absolutely. And taking over, and Joel coached me, and that's a funny thing. It's always about these full circle moments, right? Like Joel and Brad were my head coaches in the Brooklyn Merchants in 2015-16 there, right? And now I'm coaching alongside them. I get the call up in 2023, winter 2020-23, when we won the ALL Cup, right? I think it was. And I was the offensive coordinator of that team there, right? And then obviously with Joel stepping down the year before, as you just said, and then Will coming to me and asking me to be the head coach. It's just kind of carrying on because me and Joel have very aligned visions in terms of how to coach a team and what we think. And it's about a big thing about me is work ethic, man. Like the talent's there. We know the talent's there at these levels here, right? Everyone can play the game, but how much do you want it? How hard do you want to play for it? Right? The little things of the game. Are you going to do those little things, those little sacrifices, going into the corners, running hard off the floor to stop a transition or to keep a transition going, right? Are you going to double team here? Are you going to sacrifice and soak a shot, right? Those little things are what make and break. You can be the most talented player, but if you're not willing to lay on the line, I don't want you on my team because that's just going to, that's almost like a venom. It seeps through and then other players see one of the best players on the team not doing his part. And it kind of just seeps into everything else. And you don't want that. You want to get rid of that because at this level, I'd rather have the hardest working kid who's maybe not as good, but guess what? He's going to go out there because work ethic is infectious. It's infectious, right? And if you're working your ass off and the guy next to you is working your ass off, then I'm going to go work my ass off. Because like I tell my players every time, there's two things that you can always control in a lacrosse game, right? Your attitude and your effort. Those are the two things that you have control of at every game. Because at the end of each game, you can sit back and say, okay, I put my best effort out there. Because when things aren't going right or if things aren't going your way that day, guess what? You can still have your effort out there and work your ass off and put a smile on your face and say, you know what? I can't catch the ball today. I can't shoot the ball today. I'm having a tough time doing this, but I'm going to do everything else hard. I'm going to get off the floor hard. I'm going to get back on D hard. I'm going to stop the odd man rush hard. Right? That kind of stuff those are the two things you can control at all times, your attitude and your effort.
Right. Now, I find that, we talked about OSL. We've talked about some of the other things. I think ALL is a much more difficult job as a coach because you have guys going up to the NLL, coming back from the NLL, out for injury, back and forth and up. And you have to readjust your game plan on the fly almost half an hour before the game when you see who's in the room.
This is you're talking about my life this year with the Steelhawks, right? And it's very challenging as a coach because you're like you said, like all of a sudden, like the day before, I'm losing Landon Sinfield, Ben Cromer, and Jordan Storos to the NLL, right? Now I've got to fill those three massive spots with somebody with other players. I've got hell of a talented players, right? But at the same time, too, with the NLL, I mean, like. There's not much practice time if there isn't any because players are coming from Ottawa, they're coming from Hamilton, they're coming from London, and it's hard to get them to come in during the week to come practice and then come show back up on the weekend as well. So implementing systems offensively and defensively is very difficult on game day there. So you're trying to get just a semblance of a system that everyone's comfortable with, right? And then as a coach, you're sitting there going, okay, this guy can't make it here. There's an ice storm out in Ottawa. Those Ottawa guys can't make it here today. So we're going to have to do this, right? So as a coach, it keeps you on your toes on game day, if not the day before, about who I'm going to be playing that day, right? And utilizing everyone in the best player. Like, okay, I'm going to bring this guy up. He's going to be transition. Okay, he's going to start at the back door in the second period, and then go up on the O door in the third period there, right? So you're trying to utilize your who you have in front of you to the best of your abilities to try to harness as much as you can out of these guys to win the game.
Right. Because you had a strange year because you guys started off slow, but there was a guy in your corner. That was me. I
know you were. Gary, I saw you there. I saw you.
Yeah. Just like you say, even in the power rankings, keep mentioning that there's just too much talent for this team to be sitting in 7th or 6th. And it's going to be, there's not long before it moves up. And sure enough, you put together a midseason streak and you are white hot. You're the hottest team in the league by far and just eating up the rest of the teams. That's when I wanted to see the playoffs. That was the team that I wanted to see. But, as things go, like you say, you lost Sinfield, you lost Storos, you lost a few other guys to injury as well.
Yeah.
And then, here come the playoffs and it's like, Six Nations gets their big win. And it's unfortunate that it didn't happen the other way around. But, again, it's life lessons. It's learning how to adapt, right?
It's learning how to adapt. And the biggest thing, like I said there, me and Brad were talking the day of, and then we're talking with Will is, hey, listen, we're going into the game, with the ALL being at 20 runners, right? You're allowed to 20 runners, 2 goalies, right? We're showing up with 17. We've got some major guys out, but we've got a good depth on our team there, right? We've got great depth, great players there. But it was a lunch pail kind of, blue collar attitude. We had to come in there. We knew if we were to win that game against that kind of Six Nations squad, it was a lunch pail, tie your work boots up and go to work. Because if you didn't work, you were going to get your asses kicked, right? And we put in a solid effort in that first half there. It unraveled there really quickly in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out ways to stop the bleeding. And it was just a lot with, asking, we had 16 runners. And again, not making excuses, but you're trying to move guys here, move guys up. I had a couple guys down, had to go down a couple of shifts with injuries. So I'm taking guys from the back end, Scotty Reed coming up, playing lefty O, go out there. Okay, start on the D door. You're pushing the ball up this way. We lose Curtis Conley. I God bless his soul. Like, he was so upset that he had to leave, but he had a duty to do it. And he told me about that. He had to be on the bench for the Firewolves with Lenny Clark. And I said, dude, you got to worry about yourself. I understand, right? I know how much you want to be here right now. Like, he came to me at halftime, gave me a hug. He's like, I'm so sorry, Diggs. I said, listen, it is what it is. It's life. We got to learn to deal with it. No, we're not going to have everyone all the time. And we got to focus on who's in the room at that moment, not who's in the room at that time, right? We have to come together as a team and figure that out, right? And unfortunately, we couldn't figure it out this time around, right? And the game got away from us. But kudos to Six Nations, man. Are you guys still there?
We are here.
We're here.
I don't know.
We can hear you. I just can't see you.
Your picture just went.
My picture just went there. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's happening.
No, don't worry about it. Well, when you talk about players losing players and having to bring players in, anyway, I'll speak. I'll speak anyway. When he talks about what he's talking about here, where when you lose players, it's about chemistry, and it's not about replacing a 5'10" guy with another 5'10" guy. There's more to a player, and it's more of it's a chemistry experiment for a coach, and coaches that understand what pieces you can add to make that chemistry work. That's the key, and that's the challenge he has. And sometimes you just don't have the horses to figure out how to use them. So that's the challenge of a coach, is to ensure he has the guys to do the job, or I should say the challenge of a general manager or the coach, if they're the general manager as well. There he is. He's back in.
Guys, I don't know what's happening with my screen right now, but I can still talk. So we can.
Yeah, you can still talk. I was just saying while you were gone about your job is also part chemistry, right? There's motivation, and then there's chemistry, where you lose a couple of players. And I was saying to Gary and to the viewers, you can't just replace a 5'11" guy with another 5'11" guy. That it isn't that simple. It's about chemistry and how players fit in as a group. And I wanted to jump in on your point about working hard, the work ethic. The problem with talented players who don't work hard is they make it easier for the other team to score than they can. And that's where the problem comes from. And that's where it starts.
Absolutely, Frank. Like, you hit the nail on the head there, where is if those players don't lead by example, and they're not out there and they're not leading by example, it seeps into the culture of the room, right? Where, hey, our best player isn't working, and that makes everybody else maybe take a step down, and then you become an easier team to play against, right? Whereas if your best players are out there and they're giving hell to the other team every time, that seeps through your whole team. That, guys like the Pfeiffers, Devin and Parker, they go out there and they're laying it on the line every single day, and that's why they're leaders of both my clubs, the Steelhawks and the Merchants, because they are the epitome of what I want to see in lacrosse players. They're there every day. The way they lead by example with their voice, but also with their actions on the floor and how they play the game. It's hard on the floor every single time. I mean, how many times do you see Parker on the floor, face into the thing after diving or trying to drive the net, or trying to do whatever it is, right? Devin going out there and he takes his legs, he's getting beat up, he's getting taken to the ground. But guess what? Every time he gets knocked up, he's getting his ass back up. He's going right back in your face. Right. And those are the players you want. You want those players to succeed, right?
Well, another player that comes to mind is one you brought up was Scott Reed.
Yeah.
He's a perfect example of you can never measure the heart of a man by the size of the outside shell. And, not the biggest in stature, but boy, does he play like a lion.
Let me tell you about something about Scott Reed. That kid could play on my team any day of the year. If that kid was 6 inches taller, he's NLL 100%. Not even. And it's a sad thing that I got to sit here and say he would be NLL. Listen, when you're 5'4", 5'5", right? It hurts. But the way he plays, I've never seen a player get more beat up on the faceoff circle than any other player. He's had 3 different slashes on his chin and stitches required in the last 8 months, right? Because he's in there, he gets dirty, he gets back up, and he'll take it and he'll go right through the floor. He's coming off, his bucket's on the side of his face, he's doing this, but he shows up every single game. The way that he plays, and like I said, those are the players that I want on my team that epitomize of a player that the coachability is what I'm trying to get at here, right? That they're out there and they're leading by example, not just with their voice. They don't talk, but they walk the walk. Right. And players like Scott Reed, the Pfeiffers, the Liam Osborns, those are the guys that go out there and they just lay it on the line. And not only being the best players at their position on the team, but being the hardest workers too as well. Right? As Frank was saying, you need that.
You need them, and I'm not a coach by any stretch, but I like to think that I try to pay attention to how things work. Those guys that you're referring to, those are the guys you tap on the back. You tap the back of a star player and you tap him on the back and see what he's doing. I need that from you. If he's willing to do it, you should be able to do it. You got the talent to even be better than him. And that's why the hard work part I respect and appreciate and understand what you're talking about. When you're talking about the ethic of working hard, it means everything, because if you can outwork the other team, there's a good chance you're going to win regardless of talent.
Absolutely, especially at this level, at the NLL and ALL and the senior level, the hardest working team is usually going to win because the skill levels are they're not that big in discrepancy, like as when you're dealing with junior and minor teams, right? Every stage goes through a filter. Minor to junior, you filter out, right? Players get better. Junior B to junior A filters out even more. Junior A to senior B filters out. Senior B to senior A filters out. But the margin for talent gets smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Because everyone's so talented.
Yeah.
But who's going to work harder? Who's going to be willing to lay it on the line? And those are the teams that usually win.
Well, that's where you, as a coach, would define the players that you're talking about as living the maturity of the game, being mature.
Exactly, Frank. That's a perfect way to be it. That's a perfect way to put it.
But it's also the way you choose your teams is you are able to find the guys with heart. Because you can't teach heart. You can teach the skills, but you can't teach heart.
It's like heart is something that just players are born with. They're there with, right? And you can see it in them. The way that they, what the way I like to put it is the way that I really judge players on how they practice, right? Because you have to, the way you practice, the way you push your players in practice is going to tell a lot about me, about how you're going to play the game come game time, right? If you're going out there and you're just, blah, 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 this is this, I'm going to get beat on defense, let this guy go around, it's just practice. We're talking about practice, little Allen Iverson there, right? Listen, that's not going to get you to where you want to go, right? Practice is a time to get better and push your players to get better, because every time you're on that floor, you need to value that time on the floor to be getting better, because I can tell you right now, other teams and players across the country are working harder than you are right now. And if you want to get to your ultimate goal of winning a President's Cup, winning a Man Cup, winning an NLL Cup, winning an ALL Cup, you got to be willing and knowing that somebody out there is working harder than you. And you got to be able to sit there and go, you know what? I'm staying the extra 10 minutes to do shots and passes. I'm doing this. I'm going to push my guys to work harder in this drill. And that's kind of what I want to, that's kind of the way I push my guys come practice time. Hey, we're here, right? I run a high energy, high octane practice, but it's about quality over quantity in my terms, right? I go hard for 2-3 minutes, push yourselves, because in a lacrosse game, you're tired. When you're tired, your thinking goes, right? And you want to be able to think the game. So I push my guys high octane, high speed practices, but thinking with pressure, right? And it really helps my guys play as the season goes on because you're tired, but you're still be able to think straight, right?
Right. Ryan, I've heard from some coaches. They don't like saying it, but I've heard some coaches talk about watching the warm up and being able to tell if the team's ready.
Oh, absolutely. That's Frank. Oh, absolutely. I tell you this, there's been a few times in my coaching career where I've gone out and I've stopped the warm up and said, what the f- is this, guys? Right? Like, what? No, because you can see it right out there. And even a couple of times during the Steelhawks games this year and even some Merchants games where, we're going out there, we're playing a lower level team. And how hard it is sometimes with players to keep them at the level that they're accustomed to playing and not playing down to your level to that, right? And they go out there, they take it a little easy, and then boom, in that first quarter, that team is ready to play because guess what? They've got nothing to lose. They're coming out and they're putting it right in your face. And sometimes you're not ready. And I would sit back and go, I knew it. Because the way you guys are warming up, you guys weren't there. And that's what I preach to my guys. Hey, you're here at the rink. You're on point. It's business. It doesn't matter who we play. It's about what's in this room and who we are as a team and how focused we are. You go out there, your warm-ups are on point so that when come game time, you don't have to turn it on. You don't have to just turn it on all of a sudden. You've been in there for the last hour. You've been working on your pass, your shots. You're pushing yourselves. You got a little sweat going. You're ready for game time. So, Frank, bang on there. A couple times in my career, I've had to go out and say, wake up, guys. Let's do this, right?
Yeah. It's not something you want to tell people.
No.
That's not something you want to talk about. I know from hearing it from coaches over the years that I've covered a lot of junior college, university, even pro teams. That thing that a coach does is about making sure the players are ready to play. That's the number one responsibility you have, is to make sure they're ready to play. And if they're not ready to play, doesn't matter how good they are.
Yeah. And you know what? That shows a lot on and that's where I talk about accountability, standards, excellence.
Absolutely.
That comes from the coaching staff there, guys, right? And that's me coming in, talking to my leadership group because they're the voice of the room. I can go in there and bitch, moan, do all this and try to rah-rah them. Hey, listen, from being a player and being a captain of a team, it's based on that leadership. So from the coaching staff to the leadership group, then the leadership group to the rest of the team. That everything's got to be aligned, right? Everything's got to be aligned. Everyone's got to have the same vision, the same goals, the same work ethic. And so when I talk to my things, I'll pull my guys off, right, and say, go talk to them right now. Get this going right now because there's something not clicking here. Get these guys going. Get everybody on the same page right now, or this is not going to go our way.
Absolutely. Now, just before we wrap up here, a couple of small questions about you is what have you learned about yourself that you didn't know when you first started coaching?
I would say I didn't have how much patience I needed to deal with players, and especially in my first year, because I guess you always relate back to like the person that you are and the player that you were, and you just kind of it's kind of second nature to expect that of other players, right? Yeah. Instead of trying to, and then as a coach, learning to instill that in other players and set that precedent, set that standard of accountability of hey, this is what I want as a coach. So I would say in my first year, I would be a little bit I'd get a little bit irritated really quickly because some players weren't doing what I wanted, but I learned really quickly, hey, you've got to preach that, you've got to be that, and you've got to show that, and you've got to draw that line in the sand because it doesn't matter what player it is. You can't have preferential treatment of players. You've got to treat every single player in that team the exact same because if players start noticing you start giving preferential treatment to other players, that seeps through a team. So it doesn't matter if you're the captain of my team or whatever, the 25th guy on my depth roster. You're treated the exact same way. You're treated to the standards the exact same way. And if you cross that line, you'll be dealt with.
Right. And what do you want to be known for when it's all said and done?
Well, you know what? I want to be known for as a coach that, and as a person that wanted to do what was right for his team and be known as a motivator, and just not in just the game of lacrosse, but in life as well. Taking skills from the game of lacrosse and being able to apply them in life, into work, in your personal life, into relationships, and showing up. And that comes down to just showing up, right? Showing up and being there and putting the work ethic in, because as I said at the beginning of the show, nobody else is going to do that for you, right? And so, well, the way I coach is, you're here, you might as well show up and put your effort out here, right? Because if you're just showing up to show up and you're going to let life pass you by, you're going to miss a lot of opportunities, guys, right? Come here, take the most of your opportunities. Don't think about where you could be. Take advantage about where you are right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Listen, I want to thank you for taking the time. We're only a month away from OSL, a monmonth today.
Oh, yes.
Ontario Series starts, and all starts again for you.
Oh, it's going to be fun. We're I mean, and that's a big thing with the changes in with OSL and with this Brooklyn organization, is that it's a year-long thing with us now, with me, Prout, DeBrone, Joel, Brad. We're always talking all year long with the MSL draft comes along. So we've been preparing for this. We'll be releasing our training camp dates here, I think the next day or two. Right. And then we hit the ground running May 2nd versus Ennismore up in Lakefield. And we're ready to get going. Opening game. And we're ready to defend our title and get back out west in Edmonton this year and finish what we couldn't. Well, finish what we started last summer. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Once again, I want to thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate going through everything with you. And I always love seeing you at game time, and I love watching your energy and love watching the energy of your teams.
Hey, Gary, I really appreciate that, my man. And I love what you were doing for the game of lacrosse. And Frank, very nice to meet you today. It's been a very enjoyable time here with you guys.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Of course, Gary Groob, co-host. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. And of course, we had Ryan Degerden of the Whitby Steelhawks. And I guess we had a little incident. His microphone wore out his camera.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. I talked a little too much. It was a sign there. Hey.
His microphone took over and the camera said, I can't keep up. Forget it. I'm moving on.
I got to face the radio, I guess. Eh? Yeah,
it could be worse, though. It could be the mic gave out and the camera stayed.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. The mic's the most important thing. We can tell you stories about how we make sure at least we can hear somebody. Exactly. I have technology for that. It's an elastic band. Yeah, in talking to him, Gary, I think about this season, and I'll bring in an example of what I've learned about coaching, and I'm not a coach, and Degerden will know that one of the things that happened with the Maple Leafs was that their coach at the beginning of the year, the team was having trouble with getting on ice at the right time. They were getting multiple too many men on the ice penalties in the same game, which tells me the guys' heads aren't in it. And then we saw a game, the big game when Marner came back and Matthews couldn't make it to the other end of the ice. Now, people might point at the players at that, but for me, and I'll say it with Degerden still in the room, that's a coaching issue. That's not making players accountable. Matthews should never have been on the ice if he couldn't skate back to his own end. And that's what accountability looks like, folks. And that's what makes teams great, is that they make themselves accountable and don't make the mistakes that'll kill you. You know, the ones of working hard and making a mistake, a coach can live with till the cows come home. But a mistake, which is, I'll call it lazy, not thinking, those are the ones that gray hair jumps on a coach's head.
Exactly. No, I agree with you, Frank. Yep, absolutely.
So it's important. So I appreciate your energy. All kidding aside about your microphone being able to survive your camera. We loved having you on. And I got to tell you, if we can, and slow down the speed of the video and the sound so people could keep up with you. I don't know if everybody kept up with what you had to say, buddy, but you were fun to listen to. I have to tell you.
I appreciate that, Frank. I get that a lot. I get going with my ADHD and I get going with my thoughts and I just go. So I apologize there, guys.
No,
not at all.
Don't apologize. I'm just making fun of the fact that there's a lot that came out today, and I hope everybody was able to keep up. Because you had a lot of really good things to say, and we're really glad that you came, and we really appreciate what you've done for lacrosse and what you're what you're doing for lacrosse, and of course your history as well. So thanks for being who you are, Ryan. I really appreciate you.
Frank, very, very kind words of you, and I appreciate that, my man. Thank you.
All right, he's Ryan Degerton. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. He's Gary Groob, and this has been NLL Lacrosse Talk, where we talk lacrosse every Thursday at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. Thanks for watching, everybody.